Welcome back. So before we continue, I just want to talk a little bit about this weird repository interface that we're using in the domain right now. Again, notice the interface is actually here in the domain. The iRepository interface is inside the domain package right here. And why is it here? Why not here? That's the way the tree-layered architecture works. Well, it's because we want to kind of let the domain decide what it can call inside the repository. And then later this guy will implement and help us actually execute some specific code depending on what we're calling. So the domain knows what it can call, and the repository down here will know how we can then execute whenever we're calling something. So in our case, when we call the getAll, he will call an interface method called findAll, and down here we'll implement that findAll in a class later on, and then he will get the data from a database, in this case probably an SQLite in the beginning. How do we do that? Well, let's jump into our code. We want to do this test-driven again. So we want to make sure actually right now that when we call getProducts in our product service right here, when we call that getProducts, it's going to call the product repository findAll method. It's going to call that exactly one time. That's the test we want to build right here. So let's actually write the code right here. And the first thing I'm going to use is a new mock. I'm going to make a new, now of course we could start generalizing this and adding some helper classes in here to make it easier so we don't have to rewrite mocks all the time, but I think that'll be for later videos. So I'll make an I product repository right here and I'll just mock that. And then of course I can also make the service right here. So let's just make the service equals new product service. Then we have the service available as well, product service, and there we'll pass in the mocks object right here again, just like we did in previous lessons. Now we have the service available, and here comes the cool part. Now we can just call the services getProducts right here, because again, that's the method I want to test, right? That's what at least what my method name says right here. And I want to make sure that that calls the product repository findAll method exactly one time. So again, I can read from my actual method name right here what to do. So what I expect is I can now verify. So there's a way to verify what's happening inside your mock. And here's the cool thing. I actually have access to the actual repository code right here. Let's just get rid of all this nonsense. So this is actually the R right here is going to be my repository. So what I expected to call once is going to be the repository's findAll method. And right now there's no findAll method. So we'll have to go and create that. So I can again write the code right here. It'll fail. I can Alt Enter and I can create that method in the findAll right here. And let's just keep it like this for now. If we go back to the service test now right now, I expect that method to be called times once. So that means I'm going to call it exactly one time. And notice I just did a comma after the findAll, and then I explained that I'm going to call this exactly one time in my code right here. Let's try and run the unit test right here and see what happens. Of course, the unit test will fail. So it says you're not calling that method even though you say you want it to. Okay, so how do we fix this one? Because now we need to go and fix it. Let's jump into the product service, the getProducts right here, which is not calling the findAll right now. All we need to do in order to fix this is just call, oh, notice I don't have access to the product repository. I need that. So we'll just make a local variable right here for that. And I can't unit test that because it's going to be a private variable. So I'll just do a local variable right here like this, and I'll just do an Alt Enter, and now I have a private variable right here. Now, I want to use this private repository right here, and I want to call the findAll one time. So let's just do that, and there we go. Now, it doesn't return anything yet, so let's just return null for now, just to kind of end this and see if we can actually get the unit test running. We'll do a run right here again of the failing unit test. There it is. Run it and see what happens. The unit test is now green because now we are calling findProduct exactly one time in our code. Perfectly fine. So that's just a way for you to kind of test and verify that you are calling other implementation classes one time. Now again, I don't care what the product repository implementation is going to do in order to get these products for me. I don't care about that. I just want to know that he's calling the findAll one time. That's all I need to know, because later on when I get back and work and by mistake I do this, oops, I'll actually get an exception because now I'm not calling it one time anymore. Now I'm actually calling it 3 times. And of course, that's a big issue. That's a waste of resources to call this 3 times. If it was a create, I might end up creating the same product 3 times, and that would also be a bad thing. So what I just made a unit test for is to make sure that I'm only calling the product repository's method one time.